Awesome. Kristen, good to be able to see you. Excited to be able to talk with you today. We'll give people just a moment to be able to come into the live stream. And maybe while I'm doing that, I'd love to hear from you, just like what's going on today? How are things with you?
Yeah. Um, it's a beautiful day here on the peninsula. I can't complain. Living here is always really good. Fridays are slow in the office, which was a great time to spend some time with you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I often see about the same thing. It's like I've got flexibility on Friday afternoons, and
Yeah.
it's good to be able to just like take some time, catch up with people. It was great to be able to meet you in San Francisco when I was there last for Zero Click.
Yeah.
And, one of the things we started talking about was just, there's a lot of talk around like AI generated content. And then on the flip side of that, there's a larger conversation around like how we can be more human. And I think one of the things that we've been really trying to do more of is kind of these LinkedIn lives, like talk with people that we've been working with. What are you learning? What are the things you're seeing out there in market? All those types of things. So we'll be able to do that today. We'll have a chance for people that are either working in venture or in marketing and have kind of questions. Throw those at us, and we'll do our best, obviously, to answer them. But maybe to get started, and the kind of arc for today is love to hear a bit about you, love to hear a bit about Premji, and then we'll get into more around some of the things you've been doing more specifically. But just to really back out, like, where are you from?
Yeah. I'm originally from Las Vegas. I was born and raised there, went to UNLV, and moved to the Bay Area about 13 years ago. And truly stumbled into venture. My background is actually hospitality. I should say I was a certified sommelier working the floor in restaurants in Vegas,
Wow.
managing restaurants. And then moved here and just really had the best luck meeting people that upped my game each way of the way. And then landed at Premji, and it's definitely my forever home.
Oh man. All right. Sommelier, I've got to know, like, what's that training like?
Super intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
It
it's all
was,
these, like, it's a science, right? I mean, you're kind of getting into the
yes.
chemistry of how all this stuff works and how different acidity. You tell me.
Yeah. There was an amazing documentary on Netflix a few years ago called Somm that followed three Somms as they went through their process to become a master. And it's you at that level, you're living, breathing wine on a daily basis. That was not me. I was like, I really like wine. Can I make a career out of this?
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm sure you're extra fun at dinner parties, or what's that like just now?
Yeah, definitely always get tapped to pick the wine for sure.
Awesome.
But are you a wine drinker, a beer drinker, a whiskey drinker?
I like beer. I don't know enough about wine.
Hmm.
And I think it's something where, like, whenever I'm exposed to really good wines or trying to be able to talk with people about wines, it's always fascinating because of how regional it is and how you can really get a sense for the place. And I think there's kind of the mythology that goes behind, the stories of, where something has grown and the kind of like climate and regions and, maybe what's happening within the environment as those grapes are growing. And so I think it's a fascinating area because it's not the same. You might have the same, you know, farm and area and just it will change every single year.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's called terroir, is a sense of place. And my favorite example with that was there was this amazing Pinot Noir winemaker based in Sonoma. His name was George. He just made Pinot, and he made it from four different plots, and they were each treated slightly differently. And one of them, very famously, was fertilized with cow manure, and you could literally get this very specific note of earth in that particular Pinot Noir. That was always my
Wow,
favorite example of that.
that's unreal. I mean, and like obviously, like Las Vegas and Nevada is big on hospitality. how did you decide to go into being a sommelier? I mean, is it was it just like I mean, it's nice to have wine, and I guess it's a good area within the industry.
The story is actually a little ironic. I was working in casino marketing for MGM International, which is basically you're at this desk and people play all day and then they come to you and say, "Hey, I've blown $15,000. What can I get? A dinner, a free night, whatever that might be." And I would read their play and chat with them and be very social. And but a friend of mine that I went to school with, he was working for Wolfgang Puck Restaurants as a manager, and he was going to get his first level pin, the baby pin of a certified som. He goes, "Hey, why don't you take this class with me? We took classes on wine in school. Like it would be fun. Our previous teachers were the testers in the course." And I was like, "All right, let's do this." And I passed and he didn't.
Oh,
And I was like, maybe I have a natural talent for this. I'll pursue it one more level. Switched to working for Wolfgang Puck Fine Dining Group in Las Vegas. And yeah, the rest is history.
wow. What's the test like?
Two parts. One is written theory, and then one is service and tasting. So you sit down and they give you a blank map and tell you label all of the wine regions in France. Answer these questions. What is method champenois? Then you taste three reds, three whites, and you have to identify. And the first couple of levels, you're really just identifying, is it old world wine or new world wine? Then if you can, then the varietal, and then if you can get the place, extra points. Then you have to serve your teachers or the people who are performing the test and move around the table correctly, ask the right questions. If they ask you questions about the wine, respond correctly. Yeah.
That that's wild.
One of the scariest things I ever did.
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's partially, I mean, at that point, it's like there is the science and understanding what's here, but then also the, I don't know the best term, but it's kind of like managing a lot of personalities, right? And looking at those personalities, and sometimes they're not going to be the most rational actor, and sometimes you never know like who you're going to run into. And sometimes it's a great night, sometimes it's not a great night. I would imagine one of the things I've learned in terms of working within venture is a lot of it is not about the work. It is about how we work with our partners internally to help them work with their kind of like partners within the VC.
Absolutely.
And it's a strongly held opinions held loosely or whatever gets tossed around these days. And so you've landed in San Francisco and started like kind of bumping around, meeting different people, and then moving in and working in venture. Premji wasn't the first place that you started working. Where were you before then?
Yeah. I worked for Propel Venture Partners. Amazing first place to land. At the time, it was a $250 million fund from BBVA. And it was great. Early stage, pre-seed, seed stage fund. Met a lot of really great founders, really cut my teeth on venture terminology, big personalities. How do you navigate this world that is so tightly knit? Like
Yep.
everyone knows everyone in venture, right?
Yep.
But yeah, it was incredible. Got to plan and execute a CEO summit, a 250 person CEO summit when I was there. So tapped into the hospitality once more, but loved it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, whenever I've talked with a couple different people, and again, it's funny, sort of like being in Atlanta, but then we've been working a lot with different, groups in venture, and yourself, and just like General Catalyst and Excel and Iconic and all these different other groups. And yeah, the thing that's hard is like it's kind of a we've never really done much marketing around it, or even been able to say like we've done this work, because it's not like it. The world in and of itself is, I would say, more discreet, or it is kind of like more quiet, and so learning how to be able to navigate that is a it's a big challenge. And one of the other trends that we have heard about is, yes, there is the marketing that you do, press releases, but then also a lot of it is about in person and how do you build those relationships, and it's a relationship business. Um, and I could imagine and there's no playbook to going in and setting up like a 250 person CEO summit or, whatever that is. Um, when you were getting started, obviously you had the background within hospitality. What were the trends that you were seeing then that were maybe a little bit, different now than now? Like just
In venture versus where we are now. Yeah, 8 years later. 2 different funds as well, so I got exposed to a different population, I guess. Previously, it was pre-seed and seed, so these were guys who were looking for a $50,000 check, and they had 2 laptops and hacker house in San Francisco, right?
well,
And yeah, and we're super grateful for, connections, knowledge, networking. Today, Premji Invest is a 16 billion evergreen fund, which directly supports the Azim Premji Foundation in India. And we write $50 million checks, which is a very different population to be speaking to, but still has the same thread of needs throughout, which is the relationships, the network, and the deep knowledge that the investment team has and what they can provide to founders and CEOs. Obviously the major difference now is AI, right? AI is building things and people are interacting with AI as much as they can. It just wasn't a thing, 8 years ago. I mean, it was, but it was very niche. 8 years ago, it was crypto, right? It was
sure. I mean,
Coinbase, and
there was a lot of hype around crypto, or everything was going to be on the blockchain or whatever. And then, yeah, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was like the percolation of like there might be something there. ChatGPT comes on in 2022, 23, and then all of a sudden, like it's like, oh, this is going to be different.
yeah,
You had said a few things just a moment ago, and I wanted to unpack this. An evergreen fund. Talk with me. What does that mean, and how does that make Premji different?
super excited to talk to you about this because, yeah, it is what differentiates us. So evergreen simply means we don't follow a fund cycle like a typical venture capital firm does. They raise for 2 years, they deploy capital, and then they need to return back to their LPs at the end of the 10-year cycle. Um, the way that the evergreen fund works is that the foundation sends us cash every few years. We deploy it, and then we do our best to return that back to the foundation as much as possible. Our mission is truly just to multiply that money as much as possible. Um, the foundation is incredible. It does on the ground work in India in education and healthcare. One of my favorite programs that they do is providing education for girls, sponsors and scholarships to all the way through university. Um, so, how this is really different is we don't have a timeline when we speak to founders. We're here to become an owner in your business. We're here to provide you as a port of call when things get bad. We're not interested in making as much money out of you or interested in an IPO or an M&A, right? So yeah, that's us.
That's amazing, and I think it is a very different model. It's interesting. Everybody has a little bit of a different kind of take, on how to be able to approach, investing and helping founders grow companies. And it's, what you're talking about is how to help, people grow a company, invest, but then having like this bigger mission, which is foundation that is then contributing to real world, like literally boots on the ground type of work. I'm curious, have you been able to travel to see any of the work of the foundation, or are you still mostly in San Francisco?
Yes, super lucky a few years ago to go and visit our Bangalore office, meet my colleagues, um, go to one of the primary schools and learn about how the foundation interacts with those primary schools. What happens in India is there are a lot of immigrant workers who are moving from one state to another for work. They don't have housing. They're literally in blue tarp tents on a spare plot of land. And they typically have, 2, 3, 4 children. So the child who is old enough to go to school goes to school, But for the mom to be able to make money, she needs to work as well, so there's no one to watch the littlest ones. Some of these primary schools that the foundation supports is the little ones go to school with their sibling and just sit in on the classes. So their education is starting even earlier.
Jeez. I
Mhm.
mean, talk about whiplash, right? So coming from this, you know, very insulated bubble of wild amounts of privilege and access, and then being able to see the work that you're doing kind of move out there in the world in just unbelievably practical ways.
Yeah.
That's incredibly unique. And I can see why you'd want this as your kind of forever, home. And that's awesome.
The entire team oh, sorry, go ahead. The entire team that works here fully believes in that mission, and it's why we're here, you know? It's I like to say it's not capitalism for capitalism's sake, so
Well, I think there's a really virtuous cycle that you guys are showing, which is cool. What is it, for your founders that you're investing in? What is that dynamic like? Because that's first off, you know, having this idea of a really long-term partner that's there, and
mhm.
not just looking at maybe a 2-year cliff or a 7-year cliff or a 10-year cliff or whatever that cycle needs to be, um, which is also good, right? I mean, it's like it's good to have kind of like these time horizons in which you're working towards things. um, but what would you say is like some of your favorite stories from founders that really do view what you guys do as something different and special?
I think first and foremost, we attract founders or we're a better a fit with a founder or a CEO who understands where we're coming from and what our mission is. One of my most favorite things that the CEO of Selenome, one of our portfolio companies, said recently, his name's Omid, is the check doesn't matter. It's who's writing the check that matters the most. And it's true, like our firm is going to be with those portfolio companies for a while. We need to be aligned on what our missions are and what we're doing. For as far as founder stories, I don't have too many. Um, yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head right now.
No, I think that's a good sort of snapshot. And something that was surprising for me, again, not like I would say coming to venture from the outside, was how the capital is a commodity. Like that
Hmm.
is it's important, but it is just like sort of it, it is the baseline. And I think it creates this really interesting dynamic, which is venture marketing is very different than just sort of typical marketing. Like you're not trying to go and push more widgets, right? So you're not like your KPIs are different. And I would be curious for you and for Premji, like why market?
Yeah. So that's such a good question, and it's a lot of what I've been exploring and trying to build right now, being new to this position, truthfully. Um, the differentiator is the relationships that are built through the investors and in the ecosystem in general. We can focus because we don't have multiple LPs. We have one LP who is a very, tight connection there. We can put all of our marketing efforts into building the relationships with everyone and being more involved in the ecosystem. It's we're not running a campaign, we're building a reputation by who we are, how we show up, and what we do, right? Um, so for me, it's mostly about making sure that the investors are very visible in the ecosystem. One of the biggest tools that we have, right, is LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn, the three things that I have taken away in the last two conferences that I went to, obviously we had the gentleman from LinkedIn speak at Profound. His name is escaping me at the moment, but he
I'll
had
have
some
to go
really
back.
great
I'll
takeaways.
have to go back
Yeah.
and look it up. Yeah.
Um, specificity and agents and humans together creating trust in the platform. And forgive me, I'm going to look at my notes and see what my third one
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Well, I
And
think
relevance.
relevance. Okay. Specificity. What was the other one? I'm just taking some notes here.
Agents and humans building the trust. So I'll give you a perfect example of that is Agents are only reading the text. So your byline, your headline, and then your about needs to definitely be rich in talking about who you are, which goes to the first point, which is specificity, right? Talk about exactly what you're really good at and what differentiates you. But then you need to have a photo. You need to have a background banner.
Yep.
Maybe they need to showcase who you are personally a little bit or your company, but that has to be visually appealing to a human, you know? And there's definitely things that our eyes are attracted to just naturally. Um, and then the last piece is relevance. You know, when you're posting, when you're talking about things, this general broadness is doesn't work anymore with with LinkedIn. You need to be very pointed, in my opinion.
Sure. No, I think first off, to just kind of recap, one, the role of marketing is not necessarily just to sell more things. It is about how do you use that to, I would say, amplify the scope of possible relationships, right? And to be able to attract the right types of relationships. And that's very different. And we could say that like really all businesses are in the relationship business. B2B is very relationship driven. B2C is, it's different, but you want to have a sense of like, people say that, or it's often said like you're not buying the product, you're buying the story behind the product and how you relate to that story. But this is more personal, I think, what you're talking about, which is like how to be able to attract the, you know, right types of companies that you'd, and it's not even companies, it's like the right type of CEO or founder that you'd
Hmm.
want to be able to invest in, and that they could start to be like, wow, I really believe in this mission, or there's something that's here that's different because of the capital that's the commodity. And as you said, like it's the person writing the check that's more important because once they do that, like they are on your cap table, like they are a part of the business, like a uh, it is a business relationship. It is a long term type of situation there. So yeah, and then LinkedIn, obviously very important in terms of amplifying that, and even more important today as it relates to AEO, answer engine optimization, as well
Yes,
as like how a website is working. I think the thing that I've found to be really interesting over the last, I don't know, 6 to 12 months is like, yes, AI has been kind of percolating, and all of a sudden now it's like, oh my gosh, search is changing, the web is changing. And in many ways, I find it's becoming more human, because while the, when I would say 18 months ago, 12 months ago, it was still very keyword driven, and it was
hmm,
becoming more mechanical, and maybe it's just it was such a well-worn road and things like that. And SEO is still very important, but now the importance is all of these other things around, like not just what you're saying, but what other people are saying about you, which has always been the case for brand, right? Brand is not what you say, it is what other people are saying.
exactly.
And LinkedIn is a really good point of authority, third party authority, and something that you've been digging into. How did you get started? Like because LinkedIn is super weird. I even trying to get this stream to work on LinkedIn. I'm like banging around, and I've done it like wrong like 5 times, and Riverside wouldn't work with LinkedIn. And how did you like start to become more comfortable with the platform, or just learn like what was working and what wasn't?
Trying to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Sure. I mean, I think it's always changing, to be fair.
It's totally, yeah. Research and go listening to other people who I've listened to now to people who've left LinkedIn and moved on to other jobs, but they came from the inside. One was Iris Mansour. She was the former senior career manager at LinkedIn. She spoke earlier this year at a conference, and she was like, "Don't try to gamify the algorithm. Like they change it daily." Um, the biggest takeaway I took from her speech was, especially from a venture capital perspective, you don't want to have a braggy post. You want to have an educational post because those hit better with founders. They want their questions answered. And you know who else wants their questions answered? Agents, right? They're looking for answers.
Yeah.
So, how do I put answers out on LinkedIn that are going to attract the attention of agents and humans. And then, like you said, keep it human, right? Because ultimately, that's what's still being consumed on LinkedIn. I mean, there are scrapers out there, but they don't always work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope
I
I
think
answered
it's,
your question.
no, that's actually something I've been thinking a good bit about, in terms of like how to share things that are going to be helpful for others, get credit for the work that you're doing, but do that in a way which is inclusive.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like where you're not just like, we're number one, we're
Mhm.
number one. Like I saw there was a, I'm not going to, I will silently shame. There was a group that was like, we're the number one Webflow agency in the world. And I was like, oh man, it just feels wrong.
So cringe, right?
It's just like, just even if you are, right? I mean, but it's like, and and then fine if you want to put that somewhere on your website or whatever, but to kind of like lead with that. What for me, the thing that I think about, like a real cornerstone to, the way that we operate really starts with this idea of we, which is it's about not me, but it's about like how do we as a company or as a group work with a larger group. And I think that the best brands kind of do a great job of embracing this notion of we. And I think what you're talking about there is that exact point where even as a venture capital group where you have all of these like amazing home runs and all the stuff that you guys are doing, still being able to do that in a way which is like you're providing more of like a playbook of what you have learned as a proof point, not just another trophy. Because it's easy to go in and just throw the trophies up or throw the, you know, stock ticker photo or whatever. Um, I'm curious for you, like, what are as you're getting into specificity? I can't even say that. How do you?
The specificity, I had to practice it.
Did you? I feel like I've got to practice specificity and relevance. Um, when you're, and the other thing that I think is really interesting about venture is, um, it's really about connecting. A lot of times, like the founder CEO with a particular partner, so that they have
Mhm.
a sense of like who that partner is within the organization. Um, So when you're thinking about these posts, what's kind of like an outline or a structure that you're putting together or a framework that kind of hits on those two topics?
Mm. I'm very lucky. Our managing partner, Sandesh Patnam, is just an amazing human, but he is also very, very good at his job. He's a builder because he's an engineer, but he's also worked in the public, like invested in public companies and then invested in private companies, and his range of knowledge is incredible. And so I would say that I rely on his voice, like his brand voice, and when I'm posting from the PI handle, from the work handle, to just amplify what are we really trying to say about the portfolio company in Sandash's words. That's like my little hack, which is
Interesting.
probably yeah.
Uh,
I rely on that because you know what, I'm just not that smart. Not in that aspect. If you want to talk about wine any day, but not
well,
with
no,
enterprise.
we call it being, editors of effort. Like one of the things we try
I
to
love that.
do, yeah, is be a reflection of whoever we're working with and kind of like a magic mirror. And so a lot of times we'll go into a meeting and, we'll leave and then it's like, oh my gosh, you guys are so smart. And we're like, we just said exactly what you said, but we took out all of the bad parts, or it's like we took out all the ums and ands and, like being able to get to the heart of what someone is trying to do. And one of my other favorite quotes is from Stephen King. And he said, to write is human, but to edit is divine. And I feel like that's another really good one where our job is to be that editor, and help to get to the heart of what someone is trying to do. And so I think what you're talking about there, that's spot on. Is there anything that you that put together formally? Like we've been writing skills. Like actually, there's skills that Kendra has written, which is like it's a Mason email voice skill in Claude that'll edit, and we have different kind of personality skills. And so, is there anything that you've been putting together that helped to create a system or do anything along those lines?
Yeah. My favorite thing to do with Claude is say, "This is who I am. This is what I do. How can you help me?" And then keep iterating until I get what I want out of it. So a while ago, I did that, sat down and was just like, "This is who we are," and fed it every document I could get and said, "Write some skills for me." And so now I can pull and say, "Write this in Sandesh's voice. Write
Mm.
this in PI's voice," which is a little bit more restrained and formal. I have my own voice for my own personal LinkedIn posts just to make sure it looks good. Also, how we do outlines here, how to pull the most information out of a transcript. Do you guys feed transcripts to Claude and tell it to write things? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What tool do you use for that?
So we're doing a lot, and one of the things we're going to do after this conversation is we'll go through, and I'll take you through the sequence that we have, and we're actually doing some work with Profound, which is an AEO tool, where we'll first do a listening exercise. So
Mhm.
we have Profound, which is going through and kind of letting us know, like, all right, within the market, how are we ranking? And
Mhm.
then we'll do listening exercises from there, which do a few different things. One of which is sales calls. So whenever Danielle is talking with someone, she's actually tracking the questions that they're asking.
Mhm.
And then we'll do listening around what's the intent of what people are trying to find out there broader in the market, and then create a set of queries and kind of like pain points, jobs to be done. Like there's some stuff that we've done to be able to abstract that. And then when we're going through and looking at a conversation like this, the first thing we do is we'll evaluate this conversation next to those jobs to be done and pain points and questions from customers, and then create a series of kind of topic outlines. And those topic
Mhm.
outlines is what then Kendrick can go and look at and be like, oh man, this would be a really great article. And so at that point, then we can go in and get an outline for that article. Um, Someone will review that and then look at how to be able to create the first draft of that, get that back out, do an edit on there, and then kind of prep that for publishing and then push that out into the world, either on LinkedIn or out onto our blog. But it's like, while we have some kind of tooling in there to help push that along, it's an incredibly human process, which really does start with a conversation, multiple rounds of editing, and then probably the biggest thing is multiple rounds of listening. And I think that's the thing that, when people talk about content at scale, what they should really be talking about, I think, is listening at scale. Because that's really like any conversation, like the first thing you want to do is listen. And these are really great tools to help with that.
I totally agree with your point of you're listening, but you're also trying to understand the intent. Like, what is the intent behind this question? What are they truly trying to figure out? And
Exactly.
then spinning out the sentiment. Is it you leveraging like all the assets that are available to you really well. I love it.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think it helps for us to just make sure that we're not going off into, because one of the other things we're seeing is that, and Ethan Smith from Graphite, really great. If you're not following him on LinkedIn, do that. But there's been this debate around like how effective is AI generated content. And I would say that pure AI generated content
Yes.
is not very effective. However, 10% of AI generated content is actually returning a good bit of gains. And he goes into that in more detail. Um, but I think the reason that 10% is performing is that it is starting with listening and then layers on insights and proprietary data based upon what is needed in the world, not what is just being like auto slop generated.
Yeah, and it's a great point, and that goes back to relevance and when you're creating content. It's also about, are you putting something out that matters, and then are you responding and reacting with it? You can't just be pushing stuff out to the world and expecting it to consume.
Exactly.
Like, 1, did you hit your target audience correctly? 2, are they even interacting with what you're saying? Or are they just like, okay. This was a big one for us because we were not on X until a couple of weeks ago. And yeah,
Yeah.
and I did this.
I've actually haven't been on X for a while, but tell me more.
Yeah, so I developed this launch for Premji, and I was like, well, how are we going to be different than any other venture capital firm that is on X? Most of it is portfolio announcements, or they've produced like top 5 trends that are coming out this year that they see through their research, which is all great.
Yeah.
We could do that too, but instead, my approach was like, who's listening and interacting with this post right now? Like, let's just do a tester. Let's just find out. So I was like, "Hey, here we are, and we're really different. You wanna know more?"
Well, I think yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways to be able to approach this, but just being able to have, again, just what are we trying to do, put out there that's going to help someone.
Yeah,
You had said being able to make sure you're going to address a question, but not brag about a point, and then have that, help to connect the dots between maybe that founder and, and a partner or someone, someone on the investment team.
yeah, exactly.
I'm curious, like as you're looking forward, like what are some of the things that you're seeing as the next challenge that you're trying to figure out? Like if you're like looking out 6, 12 months, the things that you're working on kind of day to day. And this is something that I hadn't. We had prepped a lot of this stuff ahead of time, just like here's topics that were. But I'm just really curious, and the the marketplace is changing really quickly. Like, what are the things that you're kind of feeling just instinctually? You're trying to figure out.
Great question. Right now, top of mind for me is how to procedurize m content marketing outreach and make sure that we're differentiating and then make it repeatable using agents.
Hmm. Now, what's the goal there? Talk me through that.
I'm a marketing team of 1. And like many people in the platform position at many venture capital firms, and because I'm so new, nothing new to marketing, I don't have any of the muscle memory of how to get things done. And so I'm like, okay, we need to create content, and then I need to put it on socials, and then I need to make sure it's getting to the right audience. What tools do I have available to me in order to make this impactful?
Hmm.
How is what I'm going to do going to like move the needle for the investment team, because I am in the service of making sure the right deals are getting in front of the investment team. I had like pre way before. I think a better way of saying it would be, how am I making sure that the investment team is being seen well ahead of a deal, well ahead of a raise, so that they have the opportunity to build a relationship with the company, with the founder, with whomever it is. So we are top of mind the next time that they want to raise or engage with a firm. So, how do I procedurize this? How do I leverage agents and continue to keep my relevance?
What are the what are the areas you've started to explore? Are there any kind of like agents that you're like, oh man, if I could just copy that, or um, what are your trailheads?
Right now, I'm still really new. So, like, I know I keep saying that, but I just feel like I have to preface. I have been working on Claude Code for a while, building something just for me. And it's very fits and starts, right? I'll try something, it won't work, it'll break. I'll try something else. I'll research. I'll ask the guys on the investment team, "Hey, do you know about this?" And they're like, "Yes, here you go. Okay." So yeah, just an ongoing process, but predominantly Claude Code right now.
If if you were to let's talk through this agent, and maybe what I'd love to do after this is I'll get Zane and Kendra. We'll go
Perfect.
and just start to prototype some stuff, and at least have that as a second part of the conversation here. If you were to give Zane and Kendra agents authority or something, what would you have them do? What would that look like?
Audience research.
Okay.
Who's who's looking who what who's the audience that we should be reaching? How do we reach them? How do we educate them on who Premji Invest is and how amazing we can be for them?
Okay. Um, I will work with them and we will get a series of agents, or we will get something together
That's
to
so
be able to
fun.
show you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's funny, just this week we were looking at, there is a new capability in Profound where we can do audience research. And then within that audience research, listen, like hone in on segments, hone on potential industries or companies, and then look at what are pain points or opportunities that they're starting to see, and then like how are we kind of ranking around that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um, yeah, and we actually did a report just recently. We were doing an AEO report for a different venture capital group, and it was interesting because this was just like comparing other VCs.
Mm-hmm.
There was a huge spike from Sequoia, and I can go and I'll share this as a post later. And we were like, wow, because like all the other groups were sort of just kind of, there's a lot of volatility and whatever, and then all of a sudden there was like a huge spike. And I was diving into it with Zane and with Kendra, and one of the things was that it was actually a series of offline activities that they had been
Hmm.
doing, and then press mentions around those activities. But it just gets,
Gosh.
yeah. So I'll share this out with you. Actually, I've got it right here. I can maybe I have screen like you would be
No, it's okay.
horrified. You'd be horrified to see like how messy my desktop is. Like if I was to try to go and show this right now. But yeah, just imagine like squiggly lines and then just like massive spike from Sequoia. And yeah, it was all it was they had run a fairly large event, and I'm like totally whiffing right here for anyone that's listening in because I should have these details up in my head, but I'll post them later. And then those third party mentions. And so the thing that we can pull for you, and maybe we'll record and we'll I'll get some way for Kendra and Zane to sync with you on this. But how to be able to automate that listening and that audience research so that you can kind of have some insights that you're bringing back to your team to say like, hey, now I need you to listen for this, or here's some things that I'm seeing out there in the market.
Yeah. Events are huge. Offline events are huge. So, they're massive for relationship building and um, just that opportunity to have longer conversations without the structure of a Zoom meeting around it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like, we've worked together for years, or, like our teams or whatever. And like, um, it wasn't until I actually met you in San Francisco, I was like, oh my gosh, like, one, you love to hike and you're sommelier, you're doing all this stuff. And I think it really can help to bring down some of those, like we have a literal border around us right now, and so how to be
Yeah.
able to, I think, um, just, I don't know, make it like make it more of a human conversation. So anyway, I feel like I've said that like 4 times.
But
Um,
it's important, like, the younger generations after us, their entire life was recorded. I read an
yeah,
article that they won't even dance now in clubs because they don't want to have somebody take a video and post it later. Like, there's this
really,
fear of this recording. Yeah, it's crazy. And you're right. We have worked together for years. You guys are amazing. You built our website, helped us with our branding so much. But it wasn't until we sat down and looked around and said, "Hey, how are you? Wow, this is amazing. What a great night." Went to the Profound conference, listened to a speech, and then turned to each other and was like, "Oh, what did you get out of that?" And we both got different things out of each presentation, but I loved comparing notes with you. Um, there's no replacement for that.
yeah. Well, I apologize that it's taken so long. It's funny coming out of, it's like pre-COVID, we're very Atlanta focused in terms of like we were working with a lot of Atlanta based companies and all, and then COVID happened and it's like, oh my gosh, like, and then we started working with these VCs, but I think we kind of got into a COVID mindset still of we were still just like, over Zoom. And
Mhm.
it hasn't been until the last, I don't know, like 18 months where I'm like, man, all the tech is accelerating at this unbelievable pace. I need to go and just sit down with some people and talk with them and just see where they are as people. And so I'm glad we were able to do that. And speaking of which, I know I was talking with Danielle, we'll get a dinner together in San Francisco, invite only, and I can't wait to be able to put that together with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited. She introduced me to, Catherine, her last name is escaping me, sorry, she's right up the road on Sand Hill Road, and we had an amazing coffee and just again, no replacement for in person, being able just to chat live and be a little bit vulnerable and be like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How, what tool did you find to fix that? Hey, let's meet up again. Yeah.
I'm curious, are there like networks that within the operator space that you can kind of like tap into, or like what is that community like?
Yeah, there's 3 off the top of my head. VC platform is amazing. I think I actually introduced Danielle to
Oh yeah, I think you did.
the partner there. Recently attended their summit in San Diego, and it is non-investment professionals gather together and talk about what works for them and what doesn't. And the hardest thing about being in this position is you're typically the only one. Thank God I'm not. I do have a colleague who does value creation, Eva Oberge. She's amazing. But you're in a room with people who have the same problems of you and you don't feel alone. You're like, "Oh my god, I did that too. How did" "Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. When we go back to the Bay Area, can we get coffee again?" The connections were phenomenal. So sorry, VC platform, amazing. They have an online, directory where you can get answers to your questions, which is amazing. Um, VC Comms is run by Beck Bamberger. She is a force of nature. She is incredible. She wrote a book called The Flack Fairy, and I went to her
What's it
conference
called?
in The Flack Fairy.
The Flack Fairy.
Yeah,
What is a Flack Fairy?
does PR in media, and she's amazing. And her agency is called BAM.
Hmm.
It's I can send you the link and also introduce you. She's just an amazing person to know. I've learned so much from her newsletters and from going to her conference.
Hmm.
And then the last one is called Let's Talk Ops.
Hmm.
This is a community that is more on the operation side. So, firm administration, finance, hard operations, less of the marketing and communications.
Okay. Um, that's interesting. The Flackberry. Did I get that right? I feel like I'm
Flack, like FLACK.
okay. Um, and then that's around public relations, or what is the Flack?
Yeah. But I think, to be honest, I would need to Google that terminology, but I think flack means like just media. Yeah. I don't know.
All right. Well, those are yeah, and do you find yeah, I really do want to go to you said VC platform, their conference in I don't know if it'll still be in San Diego or Boston or
Next year's Boston. Okay. Flack means press agent,
oh, okay. Interesting.
one who provides publicity.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So sorry.
No,
Uh,
no, that's great.
yeah. VC platform will be in Boston next year. And yeah, I think it's an amazing place to connect with people who could absolutely use Edgar Allan services.
Oh, thank you. That's a huge compliment. And I think we've just been thrilled to be able to work with you. And by the way, the idea of a one person marketing team is so common in the VC
I
space. We
know.
see that like basically with every VC. And you're running like, okay, I've got to go and do, all of our digital presence and then in person and then like all, a variety of other random kind of outreach pieces and it's PR um, and so I think looking at how to like scale those systems or be able to have we talk about it a lot of times of like using AI as an exoskeleton. And
Mm-hmm.
I think having some stuff like that really does go a long way. And so I'm looking forward to getting like we're going to dig into an audience research agent for you and love to share that and see like how that works to do whatever. And if you find that helpful, then we can maybe see who else could find that helpful.
Yeah. I love it.
So well, cool. I've really enjoyed being able to just kind of sit down and talk with you today. And I haven't switched tabs to go and check out like any comments or anything along those lines. So if
Yeah.
those are coming up, then I'll do that after the fact. Um, but any other things you've kind of been thinking of or been, you know,
Honestly, just super flattered that, we could have this conversation today, that you wanted to speak to me about it, and I hope that it's helpful.
oh,
I always find
100%.
you incredibly inspiring and helpful, so I love the relationship, and shout out to Danielle.
Oh
I
yeah, I
would
know
be
she's listening. She
remiss.
texted me. She texted me and she's like, "Tell Krista I said hello." And so
Yeah.
Danielle says hello.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
yeah. Oh, and well, it's great to be able to work with you, and I look forward to. I'll get you some of these sort of research agents, and then I'll take you through the workflow that we're doing on how we're moving from like this conversation into content pieces.
Love that, yeah.
Yeah, and I know one of the things we talked about as well is like you were looking at kind of doing this yourself, and with other, with your groups that you're partnered with, and that type of thing. And so I hope this becomes helpful as a way to prototype some of that.
It definitely will be. I mean, you were the one who gave me the advice to record Sandesh and create, like, reference documents based on his voice, and I did that immediately. I think I did it the next week, so that's been a huge jump up in creating content without having to go through the hard part of sitting down and writing it, you know? Just kind of a voice note and transcribing it.
Yeah, yeah. I recorded a bunch of stuff from Zero Click, and
Did
then
you? Oh, yeah, that's right.
and then um, and then I went and took some voice notes as I was walking, and then I crafted those into a few different articles, with that context. And yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, and maybe I was trying to think about like the parallel, which is almost like the the remix movement that happened in the 90s, where sampling, I don't know if you remember, there was a lot of
Yeah.
controversy around sampling. I was like, oh my gosh, sampling. And I feel like that's like when I'm writing, I feel like it's more of like a sampling exercise as opposed to like a full band or orchestra sitting down and like playing.
Yeah.
But they're both valid. Like they're different
Yes.
and interesting, um, and it's a they can be bad in all the other ways, like in all cases. But so a series of sampling, but trying to be able to have more context. And so that's what has been great about sitting down with you today, and look forward to helping you create more of that within what you're doing at Premji.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, thanks, Mason. I super appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, um, we will. I and Danielle will see you in San Francisco when we come to host a dinner, and I'll talk to you then.
Okay, sounds perfect. Thank you.
Okay. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.